You know, it's not the big problems with the United States government that really bother me. I don't expect our fat cat politicians to roll up the sleeves of their $1,200 suits for long enough to actually solve issues like the national debt, foreign relations, and complex ground-up reformation of an all-but shattered education system. What really gets under my skin is those overpaid, underworked, pseudo-celebrity jackasses in Congress not getting the easy things right. When they miss the free throws, the chip shots, the gimmies that are right there for them, but they're too busy arguing over which party is the best for either or any of them to actually accomplish some genuine progress. There's a simple action that could put a significant dent in several issues the United States is struggling from right now. With one political stroke of common sense, we could create jobs, reduce petty crime, increase tax revenue, clear up overcrowded prisons, and boost the economy simultaneously, with practically no cost to the government itself. I'm obviously talking about the legalization of marijuana. I could ramble on for several minutes about how police in our country have better things to do than stop people from ingesting plant smoke that makes them sleepy, happy, and hungry. I could talk about the gateway drug and its potential to be removed from the streets and put into stores where it could only be sold by permit-holding businesses regulated against selling it to a certain age group. And that's not because the illusion of order that is our police system would stop street dealers. It's because the organized legal market would crush them. I could even mention how weed at its worst is nowhere near as dangerous as the worst of alcohol and cigarettes, which our society now happily enjoys a legalized consumption of, and would outrage if said consumption became illegal. You know, like when they tried with prohibition. None of these angles, however, are new arguments. People have been saying these things for years without any legitimate rebuttal. I've never heard a single argument against the legalization of marijuana that would not also condemn cigarettes and or alcohol. Nor have I been given a scrap of evidence that shows that the prohibition of this substance has been effective at all in keeping people from using it. Instead, it's used just as much, sold as a crime, which means that the money spent on it and invested into it never gets to touch the government's hands. When you buy something at a store, you pay tax on it. When a business makes money, they get taxed on the income. So technically, for each legal business transaction, the government makes money twice, and the economy flows as money moves through legal businesses, their employees, etc. When money is used for the sales and purchases of illegal drugs, that can't happen, and we end up throwing people into jails over selling or buying something that should never have been illegal to begin with, where taxpayers then have to pay to keep them. I've yet to hear a compelling argument to keeping this potential product illegal, and believe me, I'd love to hear one. It would make me less frustrated with my country's impotent, overbloated, and childishly self-defeating government if I heard a convincing explanation for it to consistently miss the mark on this extremely easy issue. I'm not saying that this one thing could be a magic wand to solve every major government problem, but it's a solid step in the right direction on a few fronts, from which I think actual progress could continue. The truly upsetting thing is that this issue is so cut and dry, plain and obvious, such an essential and inevitable cornerstone of progress that the government still hasn't gotten done. And if it hasn't gotten something so glaringly obvious in the common sense department done, what can we expect them to do about the big issues? I don't think we can expect too much of them. Every person I've ever talked to in person agrees with all the points I've mentioned here on this particular issue, regardless of their political stance. And we know the government would be best served to just get it done, but it hasn't. And rather than reacting with outrage and hair-pulling frustration over the consistent political failures of our elected officials, we, as a population, have accepted it. We sympathize for its incompetence as one might do for a mentally handicapped person. Oh, that's just the U.S. government. It tried hard, but it doesn't really do well with those common sense issues that offer slim to no risk and massive benefits through their implementation. But it's okay, because it's the best we've got. Now, ironically, it's the absence of citizen involvement that leads to such a brutal lack of political accountability, but the catch-22 here is pretty damn obvious. With such consistent failure to reward the loyalty of the people, is it really any wonder that most of them are too disenchanted with their government to bother caring in the first place?